It is finally here, ladies and gentlemen. The NBA playoffs are finally concluding, and I am thoroughly pleased with the results. Not just because I'm a lifelong OKC fan and feel like this may be the best chance we ever get to win an NBA championship, but also because this basketball series is for the true basketball nerds. I truly feel like this is the best basketball series we could have gotten as far as strategy. Sure, Knicks Lakers or Celtics Lakers probably would have been more drama, I'm not disputing that, but these two teams, in my opinion, because of their depth and versatility, can throw the most punches and counter punches at one another, to the point where I think the general public is significantly underrating one of these contenders. I don't know why I'm trying to be vague. You've seen the title odds, you've seen the title of this video. No one outside of Indiana thinks the Pacers can win this series, and I don't think they will, but I think we are going to get a very competitive set of games, and I do think Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam have a legitimate chance at bringing Indianapolis their first NBA championship. But before we get into the actual analysis, I want to briefly go through both teams' lead-ups to the NBA Finals, how they performed both in the regular season and the playoffs. Starting with OKC, one word, dominance. Literally one of the best regular seasons of all time. MVP, 2 All-Star, All-NBA players, 2 All-Defense level players, top 15 record all time. They've truly been dominant. They are the first team I've seen since the death lineup Golden State Warriors to be able to break open a game within a 5-minute stretch in a random quarter. And they do that off the backs of their insane defense. It's been getting a lot of buzz, especially lately, but I truly don't think the general public comprehends how historic they've been. They have one of the best defensive rating differentials of all time, force a ton of turnovers, and have no real defensive liabilities. They have the highest amount of elite perimeter defenders I think I've ever seen on a single roster. Their worst on-ball defenders are SGA and Isaiah Joe, both of which are at the worst neutral on-ball defenders. Elite hands up and down the roster. They got 6 or 7 guys that could average 2 steals per game on another team, and 2 legitimate paint defenders. This regular season was truly legendary, and this legendary run has continued into the playoffs where the numbers have gotten ridiculous. They are putting up numbers that haven't been seen by teams since the 1970s. You heard me right, 7-0. That's already insane, but when you combine that with one of the most consistent scorers in the league, who eye test wise has gotten even better in the playoffs, along with 2 of their younger stars growing up right before our eyes, you get one of the largest playoff point differentials in NBA history. It's very clear why OKC is getting as much hype as they are. The stats and personnel is insane, but I think what people fail to realize is that maybe the best team to counteract the OKC Thunder, other than any team with Nikola Jokic on it, because goodness gracious, that man took OKC to 7 games with Jamal blurry vision, an MPJ that couldn't lift his arms but still kept shooting, and an Aaron Gordon with 1 working hamstring. Put some respect on his name. But if I were to theoretically make a team that is best equipped to beat the OKC Thunder, that team would look a lot like the Indiana Pacers. What do I mean by this? Well, let's get into their season recap. The Pacers started off a bit slow. In my opinion, that was because Halliburton was still recovering from his hamstring injury. AM Hoops actually made a very good video about that, link in the description, but they really rounded into form in the back half of the year, posting one of the best post All-Star break offensive and defensive ratings. And that last part has tipped me off to the fact that a lot of these NBA pundits don't actually watch the teams that they talk about, because a lot of the analysis I've seen on mainstream media, obviously not the YouTube guys, but on mainstream media, a lot of the analysis I've seen of the Indiana Pacers has been a lot of the same talking points from last year. Super fast and efficient offense and a very subpar defense, but they've actually been a much more balanced team this year in the regular season especially. They posted the 9th best offensive rating through the entire season and the 13th best defensive rating with the 7th highest pace in the league. Still clearly an offensive leaning team, but a lot more balanced than they showed last year. And I'd like to focus in a little bit more on that defensive progression, specifically one player's defensive progression, because Tyrese Halliburton, in my opinion, has made significant strides on the one end of the court that was really giving him a lot of trouble. Last year, let's not sugarcoat it, he was a traffic cone. He was free Uber Eats barbecue chicken all the way, but this year he's been a lot more passable, even good at times. There were several times in that Cleveland Cavaliers series especially where the Cavs were searching him out when they needed a bucket. I think in back-to-back possessions in game 3, I want to say, in crunch time, he had back-to-back one-on-one defensive possessions where he either got a block or a steal. He's truly come into form and become at the very least a pass passable on-ball defender, which is really all you can ask for from your star player. But let's stay on Haliburton and switch to his offense, because he has had the coming out parties this postseason. Just a few days after being voted the most overrated player in the league by his peers, he goes on an insane playoff run, has awesome stat line after awesome stat line, has clutch playoff moment after clutch playoff moment, and truly solidified himself, in my opinion, as a top 10 player in the league. He's the last true point guard. There was a game last year against the Milwaukee Bucks where he only scored 13 points, but I remember saying that was the most impactful 13-point game I think I've seen in the last half decade. He is just perfect for this team, a perfect superstar for this team, because he can play make without pounding the ball. He can put his teammates in the optimal position without necessarily force feeding them. And this play style allows the Pacers' high percentage of high-level secondary playmakers and play finishers to get the ball in advantageous situations while also keeping their rhythm and staying in the game. You combine all that with a second option as solid and good as they come in Pascal Siakam, a Julius Randle with better skills. You put all that together and you get a team that gives me a little bit of worry as a OKC Thunder fan. Now, comparing the two rosters, the Thunder have the clear edge in my opinion. Even if I don't think the talent gap is drastic, I do think 9 people out of 10 will take the Thunder's roster over the Pacers roster. SGA to me is just a better first option. I don't think that's a hot take, but that's no hate to Haliburton. I think SGA is a tier 1 player. That's Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and SGA. I think Tyrese is a tier 2. Second option wise, I'd probably give the slight edge to Pascal. I just trust Pascal a little bit more at this stage in both of their careers. Chet and Miles to me are about even. I think Chet has higher highs, but Miles is a bit more consistent to me. Supporting cast wise, I'm gonna take the Thunders by a small amount. They're a little bit more healthy, a little bit more consistent, and a little bit more versatile positionally. So the Thunder are the more talented team, but I think this little exercise goes to show that I personally don't think it's to the stark degree that everyone else says it is. I really think their main talent advantages start and ends with SGA being like the 2nd to 4th best player in the league, while Tyrese is like the 7th to 12th, and their supporting cast being maybe 10 to 20% better than the Pacers. Now, if J-Dub and Chet are who they were in the Minnesota series, then this gap is significantly larger. I personally am just a little bit lower on J-Dub and Chet than most. I need a bit more evidence till I'm convinced they are the J-Dub and Chet from the Timberwolves series and not the J-Dub and Chet from the Nuggets series. So the Thunder obviously have the clear talent edge. If we look at how both teams are constructed though, what they want to do on both ends of the court, I'm sorry, but to me they seem a little bit more evenly matched. The Thunder have made waves this season and this postseason especially by playing what Ant affectionately called an AAU defense. What does this mean? This means they play heavy passing lanes and close out hard on shooters. This means they are fiends for turnovers and steals, and this also means they help aggressively off their man and dare role players to shoot. This has worked against a majority of teams in the league. The Pacers, however, are top down one of the best teams in the league at taking care of the ball, so theoretically OKC's ball pressure shouldn't be as big a factor as it was previously, and they are also top down one of the best teams in the league at getting everyone involved. If OKC uses the same strat against the Pacers as they did against the Timberwolves and Denver, I think a lot of the games are going to look like Minnesota Game 4. Maybe they can stop the stars from getting going, but then 3 to 4 other players are dropping 20 and you need all of your stars to have A+ games to compensate. If we look at the regular season matchups, specifically the second one, which was after Indiana had rounded the corner and become a really good team, then you can see this is exactly what happened. OKC wasn't even as aggressive with their AAU style in this game, but still Indiana got 27 assists, 7 guys in double figures, and dropped 111 points off the back of a mediocre Haliburton game. Now, OKC still dropped 132, but I'm just saying this monumental defense we've seen clearly wasn't as potent against Indiana as it's been against other teams. So I've done a lot of hedging on my bets. I've done a lot of big upping Indiana. Why don't you just go all the way and pick them to win the series, I hear you asking? That's because the Thunder have the perfect personnel to pivot their game plan and give Indiana the most offensive trouble they've seen in the last 2 years. I just don't think they're going to do it quickly enough to salvage Game 1. The most trouble the Pacers experienced in the Knicks series was when New York extended their pressure on Haliburton to full court. They really got up into him, made him waste a lot of the shot clock bringing the ball up the court, and clearly it made him feel very uncomfortable. But the Knicks employed this strategy with significantly worse guard defenders than the OKC OKC Thunder. That's not to say New York's guard defenders are bad, but more to say that OKC's collection of guard defenders is maybe the best in league history. The Thunder have maybe 3 of the 15 to 20 best perimeter defenders in the league in my opinion, and they all have pretty small roles offensively. They're still needed, but they all 3 as a collective can devote the majority of their energy and attention to make Tyrese's life a living hell. On top of that, the Pacers in my opinion don't have the size and strength up and down the roster to take advantage of OKC's main weakness, which is their smaller wings. Certainly they don't have more strength and size than the 2 teams OKC just beat in the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. In addition to that, the Thunder probably have the best personnel in the league to employ what I think is the optimal strategy to beat this Indiana Pacers. Switch 1 through 5, play everyone on Indiana straight up, and really grind the ball movement to a halt, forcing the Pacers to play one-on-one. I still think Tyrese and Pascal could get 30 in this defensive scheme. Game 4 against New York is the prime example of this. I just think the Pacers where Tyrese and Pascal are asked to carry the team's scoring load are the worst version of the Pacers. The Pacers where Pascal has 25 to 30, Tyrese has 20 and 13, and there are like 3 to 4 other guys in double digits is the team I want to avoid. On the other end of the court though, I'm not nearly as worried. The Pacers gave the Knicks a lot of trouble by using that same ultra high pressure strat on Brunson. The Thunder just got out of a series where the Timberwolves tried to do that with much better matchups for SGA. Nesmith is good for sure, he's a really good defender, but I'd personally take Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Anthony Edwards over Nesmith, Nembhard, and Shepherd, literally just because of size. Even if they do bother SGA though, Shea has also showed a propensity in the Timberwolves series to allow other people to bring the ball up the court, which Brunson in New York did not do enough of, and keep everyone else involved by not dominating the ball every possession. The only, and I mean only way the Pacers defense can stop the Thunder's offense is if they pack the paint, which I do think is the best strategy to do against the Thunder, and all our role players can't capitalize and really just shit the bed. And honestly, that's a definite possibility. I would bet against it happening, but it's definitely not a 0% chance. But I don't really think they can do anything to really stop Shea, although I would be interested in seeing Pascal on him for a few possessions if Shea's 3-point shot isn't falling like it hasn't been in the past 3 series. So that's really all the information I have. I've laid it all out. Here is exactly how I think the series is going to go. Game 1, I think OKC starts the game out trying to do their typical AAU style defense on Halliburton and Siakam to try and punch the Pacers in the mouth, take an early and demanding series lead. But I think the Pacers role players are going to catch this punch and counterpunch by knocking down threes and getting the whole team going. I think OKC will pivot, but by the time they do, I think the Pacers role players and team as a whole will be in too much of a rhythm and have too much momentum and ultimately will win a close one on the road. Game 2, I think the Thunder use a heavy switching strategy and have a vintage OKC playoffs blowout. Game 3, similar, but I think it will be a lot closer. Game 4, I think Tyrese has a moment and ties the series up 2-2. Game 5, I think is another OKC blowout. And Game 6, I think we have a vintage NBA Finals closer where both teams can't miss. Both star players are on a tear and it's simply whoever has the ball last wins, and I think that's going to be OKC. OKC in 6, SGA Finals MVP to match his regular season and Western Conference Finals MVP, averaging 31, 8, and 8. Tyrese with a respectable 25 and 8. Pascal drops 24 points per game. With that, thank you ladies and gentlemen for watching all the way through. We greatly appreciate it. Sorry for this extended hiatus. A little bit of family stuff, a little bit of traveling stuff. I was out of the country, but I'm back. I'm still posting. I'm not giving up on the channel. Comment down below what you think of my analysis, if you love it, if you hate it. Share the video with a friend, and as always, stay sweaty, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.